We can start now, sir.
One moment. Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar on common errors in filing of GST returns and how to leverage use technology with the help of GSTZen and simplify the errors that come up in filing of the returns. I'm sure every one of you who are here present are well aware of the provisions of the GST and also well aware of the timelines in which the returns needs to be filed and the penalties. However, the objective of today's webinar is to give you where all the errors that are happening. One, it could be ignorance. Two, the law is getting updated time to time. There are so many several of notifications that come time to time. Now, attending sessions like this, getting the knowledge updated so that you don't make mistakes. In GST, it's a self-assessed law. Whatever you are assessing and filing the returns are deemed as if everything is complete. Only when in a doubt, the officer will come back to you and ask for additional information. Unlike the earlier regimes, but under the GST regime, there is not necessary that every SSC who is filing the return should get a notice on GST assessment, etc. So it is very important that we all comply the law. In today's session, we are going to look at how well we can comply the law and use GSTZen as a medium to leverage and reduce our mistakes. Along with me, I have my colleague Ashika Agarwal and Akhila, who will also walk us through the various sessions. Let me just Utkarsh, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the first aspect, which is GSTR1. So GSTR1 is a sales outward supply statement. Though we call it as a return, it is a statement that we file the returns using various modes. Why am I saying using various modes? We know from effective from this month, SSCs whose turnover more than 5 crores, e-invoice is applicable. Prior to e-invoice, I'm talking about before 1st October 2020. There was an e-way bill that was happening. The data from e-way bill was flowing into GSTR1. Today, the data from e-invoice flows into GSTR1. Typically, if you see, entire e-invoice is going to be complete suite of your GSTR1. After e-invoice, all that you need to do is enter your B2C, which is the consolidated value or the exempted value or the advances, leaving that the entire GSTR1 is complete. But what are the common errors that happens while filing through e-invoice? Today, e-invoice has come. Entire data which you have done the e-invoice flows to GSTR1. You don't need to enter the separately the B2B invoices in the portal. However, you need a software. A software like GSTZen will still help you to mitigate the errors. You may ask me, how can there would be more errors or some more errors when the data is automatically flowing to GST or what? Look at the scenarios. I have generated the invoice and cancelled the invoice in my books of accounts. The moment the invoice is done, it has automatically flown to the government portal, which is your R1. So while filing your R1, you still need to reconcile the books and the auto-populated values in R1, and any differences thereon you have to match and nullify. Another situation, after doing the e-invoice, there was someone who has posted a backdated invoice and e-invoice has not been done. Or there is the change in the values happened. Instead of Mr. X, I've changed it to Mr. Y. Instead of amount to be 1 lakh, I've changed it to 1,50,000, whatever. Credit notes, debit notes, e-invoice is not done. Or the time, there is right now, there is no time limit for filing of the generation of e-invoice. Maybe on 10th of the month, I have generated a e-invoice. Those data wouldn't have flown to the government portal. So you have to do this manually. Recently, we had a notification wherein they said the advisory from the GST and saying that within 7 days you have to do the e-invoice for 100 crores and above SSCs. Then later it has been withdrawn. I would say suspended for the time being to ensure a better compliances. Apart from that, what are the errors that happen? Advance received from customers. In case of the service sector, the advances from the customer should be reported and the taxes shall be paid upon receipt of advance. Here, the general non-compliance in table 11, we have advances received and advances adjusted. When an invoice is raised, the advance issued should be adjusted. Such adjustments are not done. That is another common error. The optional tables, though I shouldn't call them as optional tables, but there are still a lot of non-compliance in non-reporting of HSN-wise summary of all the supplies that you are making, HSN-wise rate-wise, and all the documents that are issued in table 13. These two tables are neglected and not filed, which I would say that you have to do it. While there is a common mistake that happens in reporting of values in 6C, which was supposed to be reported in table 4, there's always an interchange that happens between deemed exports versus merchant trading. So there's a difference between a regular supply to an export house, which is penalty made sales under the S12 CST law, where a refund can be also claimed by the deemed exporter. That is a difference between a merchant trading. There is again interchange of values reporting in those two sections. Later, there are also instances that come up while invoice is being generated, the GST NID of the customer is not captured, wrongly captured, or captured but it got suspended. Could be any of these three scenarios. At a later point in time, you are updating the GST number, or you are correcting the GST number, or the customer is coming back and say, hey, look, my GST number is restored. Please report the GSTR1 in your GSTR1 so that I can take the credit of it. We all know the amendment now, since 1st January 2022, only the credits that are visible in GSTR2 are permitted to be availed. So you got to go and make these corrections. Now, the interesting part that comes up along with the corrections, if I have to talk about corrections, the interesting part that comes up is this correction can only be done once, whether it is B2B or B2C. You cannot do the correction of a record more than once. The second thing that you should also be aware, and people again make a common mistakes, when you are making this correction in B2C, you are not supposed to report only delta figures. You have to report the full value. For example, the one which you are seeing here on the screen, in April 23, the original sales reported is 1 lakh at 18%, 50,000 at 12%. While the actual number is 1 lakh 20 at 18% and 50,000 at 12%. You might be thinking that, oh, I've already reported 1 lakh, I'll only report the differential 20,000 now. No, you are overwriting the original values. You are saying that, hey, look, I made an error in the previous reporting table. I want to correct it. So you got to report the full values, whatever you want to pay taxes on. This is again one mistake that happens. Next, the timeline to correct any of this is 30th November of the next financial year. Till 30th November of the next financial year, you can make these corrections. The last thing people don't do while filing GST returns. Let's say we are here in the month of August and we have filed July GSTR1. While filing July GSTR1, all that I will do is I will take the sales that happened or that are there in the books of accounts for the month of July and file my GSTR1. But I don't pay attention to what is my turnover that is there in the books between April to June, while what I had already reported in GSTR1. You may ask that, isn't it whatever has been reported, whatever is there in the books is the same thing that is reported? Unfortunately, no. If that being the case and everything is going to be correct, then we could have finalized all of us the books of accounts in the month of April, 20th April after 3B, and we don't need to wait till 30th September for the due date. Because error is human. There are corrections that happen. It could be someone would have recognized an unbilled revenue, later converted to invoice, not updated, or a sales and marketing team would have requested for an invoice to be raised so that they can book a revenue and collect the payment later. They realize the material has not moved and want you to cancel the invoice. Anything could also happen. So not just filing of the data for the current period, you should also correct the earlier details and file the current return. Moving further on GSTR1 itself, the timelines within which you should file is very important. We all know 11th is the due date. What happens if you don't file 11th? All your customers do not get input tax credit for that month. It gets deferred by next month. So for some reasons, for technical reasons, if you find that, okay, you are unable to do the filing of returns, for some the software is not supporting. With the e-invoice, 90% of the data is already there in the government portal. I would suggest you should go ahead, finalize and submit as is basis and reconcile, correct it in the subsequent month. You still have an option to correct it. If you don't file it on time, the fate of the customer who is relying upon this credit and who made an onward sale. For example, I have purchased material worth 1 crore during the month from one single vendor, let's say HLL, Infosys, or any of this who are my vendors. And I'm a trader of it and I'm further onward supplied to someone at, let's say, 1 crore 10 lakhs. My margin on that is 10 lakhs and at the rate of 18%. I assume I will have an input tax credit of 18 lakhs. My outward liability is 19 lakh 80,000. I will be paying 1 lakh 80,000 in cash. If a vendor do not file that return on time, that month I end up 1.8 crores in cash. And it would take a longer period for me to recoup that missing credits. So filing of returns on time is the utmost important thing one has to pay attention to. Lastly, the signing of the returns. Most of the time this is then more like an admin or a procedural job. And the accountant would be carrying the digital signature of the authorized signatory, could be a director or the authorized representative who is a finance or the tax managers. And when the respective persons leave the organization, it doesn't get changed. Or the email ID which is given could be accounts or admin or info@the organization email ID, where the OTP would come. And the authorized representative name would continue to be, let's say, Venugopal, whatever. So when people in the organization leave, there is also a tendency that this aspect is not attended to while with changing of the new authorized representative, and the returns continue to file under the digital signature of the old retired director or expired person. This is something which is happening. You need to correct it on a timely manner. And some information which is required either missing or wrongly posted. Example, exempt nil rated to be reported in table 8, not getting reported. This is a common error that is noticed. And you have an options to select when I make an export with pay or without pay. Export choosing that is one option. Again, wrongly selected, it impacts the refund. When you are making sales through a reverse charge mechanism, like I'm a GTA, I'm a passenger, I'm not a passenger, I'm a advocate. So in these services, my outward supplies are taxable, but the recipient has to pay the tax. I have to make sure I tick that. If it is through e-commerce operator, like I'm a restaurant, the Swiggy, Zomato, or the 95 Ola Uber types, then there is a separate reporting tables for those e-commerce operators. We should use those tables and do the reporting. I'll not speak much about the e-waybill. This with the e-invoice, this is kind of history, but I would still suggest do a monthly reconciliation of e-waybill data vis-a-vis GSTR1, because you will still get a notice why e-waybill is not generated wherever it is applicable. So this one has to necessarily do the reconciliation of it. Now, there is an advisory that has been given in the portal on what basis the department will issue the notice. In fact, the participants will get a copy of this presentation so that you can again cross-verify leisurely. But before you file your returns, there is a mechanism where you have to correct between 3B versus GSTR1. Then respective columns of GSTR3B and respective columns of GSTR1 is given for reference. What happens if this doesn't match? We will get a notice under DRC, which are new forms. My colleague Ashika will deal with that little in length. Moving on to GSTR3B, filing of GSTR3B and errors that happen in GSTR3B. I would invite Akhila to take over the session from this point in time.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Now we can see that till now we have learned about the errors in GSTR1. Now we'll go about errors while filing GSTR3B. While filing 3B, will be missing to report same outward supplies. Missing to report this e-commerce supplies go under section 9 subsection 5 of like e-commerce operator. Few errors which were done in our GSTR1 can be corrected in GSTR3B. And few tax liabilities which are missed to be paid in GSTR, which are missed to be reported in GSTR1, it can be paid through GSTR3B. And we can go about for reporting of ITC in GSTR3B. That in GSTR3B, ITC will be reported in table 4. The table 4 has 4 parts. First part was unaltered. Part A is unaltered. From August 2022, Part B, ITC reversed, is amended. Section ineligible ITC under Section 17, subsection 5 has to be reported in ITC reverse now. Like earlier, we used to report ineligible ITC as per Section 17(5) in Part D. However, from August 2022, it has to be reported under, it has to be added to our gross and reduced in ITC reversal. And it need not be reported in Part D now.
Okay, you can be in this slide, the next slide. Just go to, yeah. I just want to add a point here to everyone that some of the people are still reporting the old method of GSTR3B table 4, which Akhila had shown earlier. While it is very important that we need to see the values that are going to be reported in 3B in the new format, because like as I said, Ashika will be dealing with the new DRC forms that are coming up for the mismatch in the value of the reports, wherein you will be retaking the reversal credit. Actually, I'll just explain this slide because it is little important for everyone. Friends, if you notice in this slide, the total available credit in GSTR 2B is the credit that you have to take. Now, whether you have made purchase or not, whether you have received the goods or not, whether at all that credit belongs to you or not, everything has to be tracked. The government wants to do a tracking of it. So the entire 2B is to be divided into two parts. In GSTR 2B itself, you will find the input tax credit as eligible and not eligible. Please note, very important. When they say not eligible, it doesn't mean they are talking about 17 subsection 5. When they say not eligible means place of supply is some other state, not your state. You are not eligible to take the credit. Or the due date to avail the input tax credit under 16 subsection 4 is till 30th November of the next financial year. While you may say, hey, look, I'm taking the credit now. But for the financial year 1920, someone is reporting their GSTR1 now. All this while GSTR1 was not filed, suspended. You may ask, can they still file? Of course, yes, the portal permits. In fact, recently we have amnesty scheme permitting them to correct all this by end of the 31st August. So those whose registrations have been cancelled, suspended, if you want to restore, this is the best opportunity, you can do it. Now, those SSCs who they filed their GSTR1 now today, those credits would appear in 2B in this month of today, but it would be marked as ineligible. So there are line items which are coming as ineligible. So whole of that ineligible part, which is no, is moving to the right side of the bucket of the screen, and which will travel to be reported under 4D2, disallowed credit D2. What is the credit that you have to report is in the left side, which is yes, so much is the eligible credit as per the portal. However, now you have to check, because there is a rule 4243, there is 17 subsection 1, 2, 5, which will say how much is the credit eligible. Like if you are saying a banking company, 50% of the credit. Likewise, there are a host of the eligible credits. So you further segregates of this credit, how much is eligible and ineligible, into two buckets. If it is eligible, you will be reporting in 4A5 and you don't need to do anything. But if it is not eligible, you will still report it in 4A5 and also report it in 4B1, saying that so much is not eligible. So there is a concept called reversal of the credit. So the credit, you are taking it and reversing the credit that doesn't belong to you. This is a new concept that has come, that has to be followed. This is again a common mistake one is not doing in reversal of the input tax credit. The next thing is, I have also mentioned that please take all the credit, whether the goods have come, not come, all those situations, avail the credit. However, I am not saying utilize the credit, you got to park these credits. Parking of the credit means availing in the future periods, which is 4B2. So I am availing it and reversing the credit. I am reversing and parking the credits for the future period. So that is what, if you see in this slide, there are red colors on the bottom of the screen. So earlier 4B1 was a common credit reversal. Now 4B1 should be read as a permanent reversal. These credits you will not avail. 4B2 should be read as temporary reversal. These credits you will reverse now, avail at a later point in time. Now, when you avail these credits at a later point in time, again, you got to manage the availment total. There is a recent advisory that has come. You have to verify the quantum of availing reversal credit. Reasons could be many, that I am not availing in this month, I will avail at later point in time. So how do I report it? Availing for A5, reversal I'll do it in 4B2. And the month in which I have received the goods, I will again report in 4A5, which means I'm doing a double time reporting under 4A5. To offset that, I will avoid a notice coming under 4A5. I have to report that value in 4D1, which is the re-reporting of the credits. So the recent advisory that has come, the opening balance in 4B2 read with the current period reversal, should always be higher than the reporting value of 4D1. So you cannot re-avail a credit more than what you have reversed. So if you have done it, you will get a notice for the same. Just to give you an example, in 2B, there is a credit in month 1. In the books, credit is there in month 2. How do you report? In the first month, you report in 4A5, and then you report also in 4B2. So the net credit that you are availing is 0. While on the contrary, the month in which you have received the goods or the last lot that you have received, you will report again in 4A5. But this time 4B2 is not, you want to avail the credit. So net ITC, if you see 4C, put in 2 months, it is 150. Now, if I add 4A5 in the 2 months, it will be showing 300 rupees, while the government 2B is only with 150 rupees. So you might get a notice for it. That is where the government would check, is there a value that is there in 4D1, because 4D1 would be reduced for computing the value of 4A5. However, so the recent advisory says that 4A, the 4B2 value should always be greater than the value that is coming up appearing in 4D1. Here is again, people make some common mistakes in doing the reporting of it. Just a checklist for everyone. Before filing 3B, you do a reconciliation of 2B on a month-to-month basis. For example, if you want to find out the quantum of input tax credit that you have to avail this month, you will look 2B. In fact, you can file your 3B and also do a reconciliation. I would always suggest again, use technology. Tools like GSTZen will assist you in comparing the purchase register with 2A and 2B. Wherever it is matched, perfectly fine. Not matched, shoot out an email to vendors. Hey, look, these are the purchases that I have made with you, and you haven't filed your GSTR1. So you can send the reminders. It could be a situation where that in the purchase register an invoice is missing. So Zen report would also give you saying that missing, matched, unmatched, only in portal or only in the books. So those which are in the books, you can go back to your admin team and ask them that are these purchases belonging to us. So you can do these reconciliations, and the missing credits that are availed and subject to reconciliation can be parked separately. This is something that you should necessarily to do every month. Every month doing with a VLOOKUP and pivot table is not something which I would recommend. However, an expert, you are in Excel, you need to use a tool which will solve this problem. In fact, you may say that, hey, look, my books got corrected. You can just delete all the data that you have synced with the GSTZen and resync and press the reconciliation. It would happen automatically. In fact, you should also have a tool to reconcile, or from this much purchase register, you also want to mark these are the credits ineligible. You can make notes in that Excel file saying that these are ineligible credits, or these credits I want to reverse now, avail it at a later point in time. All those aspects that you can do with your GSTR 3B. Also, as Akila said, there are 4 parts to table 4. And in the first part, you also have a credit on import of goods, ISD, and all other credits. This is also compared with the tables in 2B, which I would still suggest that you should go ahead and do it. However, there are situations where if it is a courier bill of entry, or for some reasons the data from IceGate is not traveling to GSTR 2B, you can still avail the credit on IGST paid on import of goods, even though it is missing in 2B. And they have given a facility to resync the data which is missing in 2B. So that also can be done. So these are the checklist for your 3B and the errors that people are doing in GSTR 3B. Now let's look at what happens if these errors are continued and you do not rectify. The notices that will come and the new DRC forms that have been issued, which is DRC 01B, 1C, and 1D. I request Ashika to take up this part of the topic, please.
So, as we discuss about the common error which may happen while filing GSTR 1 and 3B, and why we need to be very precaution about filing it is due to introduction of new forms in GST. Now they have introduced 3 forms for the purpose of GSTR 1, 3B and GSTR 2B. If any mismatch or discrepancy is there, they have introduced DRC 01B form for the purpose of difference between 1 and 3B. 1C for the purpose of difference between 3B and 2B. And DRC 01D, which is a recovery notice. So 1 versus 3B, you will receive a notice in DRC 01B, whereby they will, in part A of DRC 01B, they will say for this tax period, there is a difference between the return which is furnished by you outward, and GSTR 3B in table 3.1. So what detail you have furnished based on the tax period, they will compare it and issue you a notice in part A of DRC 01B. In case of input tax credit, if there is any discrepancy between your GSTR 2B and the data of GSTR 3B table 4, if there is a mismatch, then they will issue you a notice in DRC 01C. Based on the notice, what they have issued, they will give you an opportunity to reply to that notices in part B. Part A is for the notice. Part B is for your reply, your explanation to why this discrepancy is there, or there is no discrepancy, or even if discrepancy has been there, it has been taken care in subsequent period. You have to furnish your reason. Based on your reason or explanation which you have provided, they will decide whether to proceed further or not. If they are satisfied with your reply, then it's okay. Matter will be closed. But if they are not satisfied with your reply, then they have been given a power in form DRC 01D to recover the tax interest on account of mismatch between 1 and 3B. Now, if you will notice that I have discussed that recovery mechanism is only provided only for 1 and 3B as of now. For discrepancy between 2B and 3B, they haven't prescribed how they are going to go ahead with it. So where you will find this form? You will find this form in the service return compliances. If you will go in this tab, you will notice if any DRC 01B has been issued or not. This will be the way it will be presenting. When you view if any has been issued, it will show that this is the reference number for this year. It has been issued for this tax period. Pending means it is a pending from your side to reply. Now you can select for this. You can select after selection of this, you can select the financial period, tax period, and then you will be able to notice what discrepancy have they noticed. Like for in this example, they have noticed your GSTR1 IGST amount and cess is shown this much, 3B is shown this much. So there is a difference. So they will issue you this notice and you have to reply to this notice in part B of DRC 01B only. So over here, as this notice has been selected, they have given 5 reasons, which may be out of 5, 4 is case specific, 1 is residual. So if you are while replying, you have to check whether you fall any of these 4 cases. Like in case of DRC 01B, which is basically 1 versus 3B, there may be a case that you have paid excess in earlier tax period, due to which GSTR1 is showing more liability. So you can select this and write already paid. It's just an example. You have to be very specific to your case. Or it may also be a case that GSTR1 filed incorrect detail and which is amended in next tax period. Some transaction of earlier tax period which could not be amended or rectified. Mistake in reporting of advance received or advance adjusted against invoice. If you are difference is due to this 4 specific, then you have to write in those 4 specific only. If there is any other reason, then go for this and explain it. What is the reason for it? Now, as Venu sir and Akhila has discussed, why we need to be very much thorough while filing our GST return is due to introduction of this form only. Because for this form, obviously you are going to go and check over there. Plus you are going to get one auto email from the GST portal that this notice has been issued. Form DRC 01B, we have already discussed. These are the 5 things. 4 is for specific, 1 is for any other reason. This is the format within which they will issue. Now coming to DRC01C, which is the difference between 2B and 3B. In this also, they have specified this 10 cases. Last one is any other reason. So if input credit not availed in earlier tax period. As we are discussing that GSTR 3B is now totally based on auto-populate data of 2B. And it is highly advisable not to change that data. Otherwise, system red flag it and give a warning to the department officer. So there is a high chance if there is a difference between data furnished by you in 3B and data auto-populated in GSTR 2B, if there is a difference, like sir said, about 5%, more than 5% difference, then it will be red flag. So you need to be careful. Even when we discuss that there may be a case of previous tax period impact in current tax period. Obviously, you might, even though data is auto-populating in GSTR 2B, it's not the case I immediately become eligible for ITC, because 16.2 specified 5 important conditions, and it's not the case all the 5 conditions will be satisfied or just because it is reflecting in GSTR 2. So we need to be very careful while filing our details in 3B in respect of ITC. So input tax credit you might not avail if you have not received the goods. You may be availing in subsequent tax period. Input tax credit may not be availed also due to error or some omission. ITC avail in case of import of goods. Sometimes it's happened, the details in relation to import of goods routed through custom are not properly auto-populated in GSTR 2B. So there may be a case that data is not appearing and because of which this difference is arising. In both the cases, even inward supply from SEZ is also regarded as import of goods. You are required to do all the compliances as like which is done in import of goods for SEZ inward supply also. So if there is, you can submit that in your reply, and it's advisable you submit with the supporting. Don't only give explanation that this is what has happened, tick, tick will not work. Submit it with the supporting to show that the transaction which is not reflecting, you have the proper documentation. In case of import of goods, bill of entry is the document for availing ITC. So you have the proper documentation so that they can drop the case at that instant only and do not drag it to another proceedings. There may be a case of excess reversal, means you reverse to the more than what is required. Obviously, if you have excess reverse, you will claim in the next current period. Now, payment made to a supplier. One of the condition is that for ITC availment that you must make your payment to supplier within 180 days. If you don't make payment to your supplier within 180 days, you are required to reverse that ITC, and that ITC can be reclaimed on payment to supplier. So there may be a case that you reversed it. Now, when you are claiming that ITC, obviously your ITC will be more than what is data auto-populated in GSTR 2B. So as we discussed, all this data, whenever you are adding anything to 4A5, make sure you do that by way of 4D1 also. Means the amount added to 4A5 in addition to GSTR 2B should be added to 4D1 to show that it is an earlier tax period for which you either might have done reversal or you didn't claim and now you are claiming. So there will be a corresponding correlation which will show to the officer that 4D1, if client is specifying, it's mean that he has availed some previous tax period ITC in this tax period. You also need to be careful that in case of payment to supplier, there is no time limit. So it's not the case that you have to avail ITC by 30th November. Whenever you made after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever may be the case, whenever you make payment to your supplier, on making payment, you are eligible to claim the ITC. Another recredit problem can be in the case where your supplier has not filed GSTR 3B or delay filed GSTR 3B. As we know, there is a time limit of cutoff to avail the ITC. 30th November. Like for 22-23, you have the last date to avail ITC is 30th November 2023. There may be a case your supplier may have filed belatedly or your supplier had not filed at all. Now, if your supplier has filed the GSTR 3B before 30th September, then it's okay. The credit claim by you is okay. There is no need to be reversed. But if your supplier has filed your GSTR 3B after 30th September for the tax period for which invoice relate, then the ITC claim need to be reversed and it again can be reclaimed on filing of return by supplier, but obviously you will be liable to pay interest for the same. Or it may be a case you might have filed your 3B with incorrect detail. So you have to see what is your reason. If it is a specific to the reason specified, you should go to that specific reason, fill your detail with supporting documents and submit your reply. If it does not fall any of this specific case, then go to residual any other reason and furnish your explanation with supporting document. If you will notice, every time I am saying supporting document, because simply saying ITC in respect of import, which was not reflected in 2B, click, yeah, this is the reason. This will not work. It's better to support with your documentation so that there is no question of eligibility of ITC, and the officer based on this can complete his proceeding. He will not proceed further with the demand of it. This is the format of DRC01B. This is what system generated is ITC that's reflecting in 2B and that avail in return. They will give you that. This will be basically a tax period form. Like if you will notice, most of you must have received ASMT 10 for ITC mismatch or GSTR 1 and 3B. And you must have noticed that ASMT 10 may be for a tax period and it may be for full financial year. But unlike DRC, over here, it will be a tax period because this form has been made in the manner that it is for one month. So be careful, keep checking your portal. You don't know whether these forms have been issued to you or not. As per the floor given it to you, go check if any form is there. Go to that form, see the discrepancy and reply to it. And it's very important to reply. Why it is important to reply, we'll come to that. And this is the format in which they will be issuing DRC01B. DRC01D. Now this is a recovery notice. Now if you didn't furnish your reply, then officer have been given a power that it can go ahead and do the recovery. So it can go ahead and do the bank attachment in order to recover the amount if you don't furnish your reply. So it's a very important, not only for this notice, any notice which is issued, read that notice. Even if that notice is not as per law, it is highly recommended to reply it and not to ignore any of the notices. Now, as we discuss about this notices, now why it is important to reply to these notices is they have been given a power to block your subsequent filing of return. If you don't furnish your reply in DRC01B or 1C, they have a power that they will block your filing of subsequent return. So for July, if they issued you a DRC01B and you didn't reply, for the month of August, you won't be able to file your return. But it is not permanent blocking. It is a temporary blocking. Once you file your return, file your reply, it will be automatically unblocked and you will be able to file your return. It may be noted for filing the reply, they have provided 7 days time. So any notice issue within 7 days, you have to reply for this DRC01B and 1C. If you don't reply, then they have the power, they can move ahead with recovery and they will block your subsequent filing. Another thing, like we were discussing about the common errors. What could be happen due to the errors if it is there in 1 and 3B? Now, they have introduced or substitute the rule 21A, which deals with suspension of registration. So if there is a difference between the outward detail furnished by you and inward detail, which is auto-populating, there is a significant difference. Suppose your GSTR1 is showing 1 lakh and your 2B inward supply is showing 20 lakhs. So this correspondence does not match. How can there be a ITC of 20 lakhs where the outward supply is only 1 lakh? So there will be a big question on it and your registration may be suspended. But obviously before suspending that registration, they will be issuing you a notice to explain why it should not be suspended or why your registration should not be cancelled. So you need to be very much careful while filing your GSTR 1 and 3B and matching with GSTR 2B. That no such significant anomaly is there. As we discussed, if there is a difference and you can't explain or the explanation given by you is non-satisfactory, obviously they have the power to recover under section 79. They can go ahead. As you know, bank, it's mandatory to furnish your bank account detail in your GST registration form. Whoever have not furnished, they have been given a time to furnish their bank account detail. If they don't furnish their bank account detail, their registration will be suspended. And on furnishing of bank account detail, it will be automatically, active. So your bank account detail, they are asking for the purpose of making the recovery. If there is difference between 1, 3B or 2B, obviously they also have the power to block your credit. So electronic credit ledger, ITC lying over there, they can also block, they can also restrict. Now, how the restriction is working in this is, as I am filing my GSTR1 and 3B, I am showing how much the turnover I am doing. So as per the law, it has been provided that if your turnover is more than 50 lakh, then you must make sure that 1% you pay in cash. Though there are certain exceptions, if you don't fall in that exception, then you are compulsorily required to pay 1% in cash. So all this detail, which is furnished by us on GST portal, will help them to analyze whether you are covered in any of the discrepancy or any of the violation of law. They will immediately take action against you. Another issue is e-invoice applicability. If you will notice that if you furnish wrong detail, even one single zero increase, there may be a case you might fall under e-invoice applicability due to that clerical error. And you will immediately get an email that e-invoice is applicable to you. And when your recipient will also search, he will also see you e-invoice applicable. So all this, even though not applicable, just due to this clerical error, if e-invoice become applicable, you will be receiving a notice from the department. Your recipient will also be saying that give me e-invoice, otherwise I will also not make the payment to you because he may not be eligible for ITC. So filing of return is very important with accurate and correct detail. This is a blocking of credit. So they have been given the power, as we discussed, to block the credit if they find that ITC availed on the basis of strength of invoice issued by registered person who has been found non-existent, or it has been availed without the receipt of good or service, or where the tax charge in respect of it has not been paid to the government. Registered person availing credit has been found non-existent or not to conducting any business from any place for which registration has been obtained. The registered person availing any credit is not in possession of tax invoice, debit note, or any document prescribed under Rule 36. All this data is now giving from your GST portal, your GST registration. Even now, the government has made it mandatory that wherever they have a doubt, they should do physical verification. Aadhaar authentication is mandatory. Biometric also they have came up with. They have introduced in Gujarat and Pondicherry now, which is obviously going to extend to all over India. So if any of this case arise, they have been given the power to block. Restriction of credit, as I said, if turnover is above 50, 1% need to be paid in cash. But there are this exception. If we fall in this exception, then this limit will not be applicable. And this facility has also been enabled in GST portal. GST portal, there is an option you can go and check about the Rule 86B. In return, there is a Rule 86B. Condition compliance is there. If you are fall under this, the officer now have the power that as of now it is in a view format, but in obviously as the GSTN network is been developed, so they would be also having the power to restrict if they find that you fall in any of this discrepancy. Now, this is a normal clarification of input tax credit. This is for the past mistake or past mismatch. If there is any mismatch between GSTR 2A versus 3B, as we know that 2B was not there at that time. 2B was introduced and made compulsory from 1st Jan 2022. So for your past period, if you have a difference between 2A and 3B, Circular 183 come to your help, which says that if transaction is not reflecting in 2A, then you can furnish the copy of invoices. You can furnish a certificate from supplier saying that yes, this transaction has actually happened between them. And by mistake, it may be a case that he might have shown as B2B as B2C, and he has duly discharged the tax on the same. Based on this certificate, your officer will allow you the ITC, but this certificate, if it is below 5 lakh, if it is above 5 lakh, CA certificate is required. From 1st July 2017 to 8 October 2019, this is what has been prescribed. And from 9th October 2019, as GSTR 2A has come, Rule 36(4) was there, which provide a upper cap that you can avail the ITC to the max of 20% additional to what is reflecting in GSTR 2A as eligible ITC. So based on that Rule 36(4), they have given 20, 10, 5%. To that additional amount only you will be allowed. If any ITC claim above then this 20, 10 and 5, then as per this circular, they are saying no ITC will be allowed. But it itself is a litigation, because we are of the view on based on this circular, ITC cannot be disallowed just because it is not appearing in GSTR 2A.
I just want to add a point here. So most of you, if you have received any notice owing to ITC mismatch, like you have availed credit basis the strength of your invoice and you have some notices pending, I would say that it is a worth fighting, and whether it is an ADT notice or DRC01 from emanating from ASMP 10, it could be our section 67 investigation. From any area with regards to the input tax credit, if your purchases are genuine, it is worth fighting, and we also have 2 circulars favorable to us. Yes, Ash.
Now, like for example, it is that 20% cap which we discussed. Suppose your 2A is showing 3 lakh, you claiming ITC 5 lakh. So additional ITC which you will be eligible as per that circular is 60K, means 3 lakh into 20%, 60,000. So eligible credit as per that circular will be 3 lakh 60. Though you have availed 5 lakh, as per that circular, they will try you to disallow 1 lakh 40,000. Now, as discussed by Venu sir also, that this disallowance, though given in circular, it should not be applied, as the circular is clarificatory in nature though, but Rule 36(4), when it was introduced, at that time there was no legal backing in the act. So we are of the view, based on this circular, this excess avail ITC should not be disallowed. Another important is circular which is relevant for the purpose of the topic is GSTR 3B is interest on wrong utilization. For input tax credit which is wrongly utilized, we know that interest is liable to be paid. Now for IGST part, they have come up with the clarification that for calculating the IGST wrongly utilized, I just don't need to see I need to see ICS. Total of IGST, CGST as SGST need to be checked in order to see whether interest is applicable or not. Like for in this example, maybe I have wrongly utilized 70K, but my electronic credit ledger as on that date maybe 75K in totality, not ICS separately. In totality is 75K, then I would not be liable to pay any interest because my electronic credit ledger is more than IGST wrongly utilized. However, if my total is less than it, then I will be liable to pay interest on the amount which is lower than that, is 20K. Now the another question which arises, for IGST, they said you have to consider total of electronic credit ledger. But what about C and S? In that, whether we should go headwise or we should go total as it has been provided for IGST, or should we take IGST plus CGST for CGST or IGST plus SGST for SGST? Reason being, if we all, as you all know, that they have prescribed the order of utilization of electronic credit ledger. They said first you exhaust IGST fully, then if after exhausting IGST, you can use C respectively to C and I or S to S and I. Due to this order, every time IGST get exhausted, that's why they came up with this interest circular to clarify that you have to consider total ITC, not headwise. Similarly, for C and S also, as there is a condition that it need to be used against I first and then C. So we are of the opinion in that also you should consider I and C and then see whether your CGST wrongly utilized is less or more. Similarly for SGST. It need to be noted that the ITC which wrongly utilize an electronic credit ledger total which we are talking about, you have to see month-wise month basis, tax period by tax period basis. Now, suppose ITC wrongly utilized in April is 10,000. In May month, it became 0. You don't have any ITC. Your total electronic credit ledger is 0. Your July month, now you have 21 electronic credit ledger line. It doesn't mean on July as electronic credit ledger is lying 20,000, you are not liable to pay interest. As in May, you were not having any ITC, it is mean that you have exhaust the IGST wrongly utilized and you are liable to pay interest on the same. So every tax period need to be checked in order to determine the interest applicability. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, before we take up the question and answers, I've been telling that to use technology to ensure these errors are resolved. I would request Bharti to quickly demonstrate like how using GSTZen we can help reconciling e-invoice with the books of accounts and push the differences to the government portal file GSTR1 and GSTR3B. Bharti, can you?
Yes, thank you. I'm Bharti. I work in GSTZen. So now I'll be showing you the demo of the software, how GSTZen makes it easier for the users to file GSTR1. It would drastically reduce the burden on you and give you ample time, give you reports to make sure that what you're filing is correct. So let me begin. Once you sign up and log in, this will be your dashboard in GSTZen. So you can add all your GST numbers here. After adding
one
the
person was asking, can I have in one license multiple GST number? You can actually see Bharti has added multiple GST numbers in one registration itself.
Right. So here we are also showing the status of recent returns. So GSTR 1, 3B, and 9. So green is indicating that the return has been filed and it has been filed on time. Red indicates that it has not been filed. Blue is indicating it is still pending. So the due date has not passed, but the return has still not been filed. So let me show you how filing for GSTR1 works when you have e-invoices. So I'm selecting the GST number here. I go to the, one moment, just going back once. Yeah, so I select the GST number from here, go to the filing page for that return. So here I've already logged in with OTP. The next step would be to download the auto-populated data of GSTR1. So I click on get details from the government portal. So all my data has now started downloading. Meanwhile, I'll upload my sales register. I'm uploading the whole sales register since it will allow reconciliation with the auto-populated data that will categorize the data into various categories, like what is matched and what remains unmatched. So unmatched will also have two categories, what is there only in portal and what is there only in books. So I'll go over that after the reconciliation is done. So here I have my sales invoices. This is my Excel containing the sales invoices. So we provide the HSN information while uploading the invoices in the Excel. So I won't have to upload a separate HSN summary. So here one-time mapping is required. I have mapped the columns from the Excel to the software. It needs to know what information is coming from which column of the Excel. So this is a one-time activity. Next time I re-upload with the same format, the settings will come preloaded as they have come this time right now. So this also I can provide. So I've provided the HSN information, the taxable value, GST rate. Then there are some optional fields as well, like department, document identifier, GL account ID. This will help you in categorizing your information and recognizing the source of the information if you want to check at a later point of time. So now my upload is complete. So the error is, the file is error free. Had there been any errors, it would have shown as a list below and I would have corrected and re-uploaded. So just saving and confirming entries. So my sales register is now uploaded. I go back to that GSTR1 filing page. So here you can also see besides filing, you have reconciling and downloading of data facilities as well. Now it shows downloaded 1 minute ago. So all my auto populated data has been downloaded. So based on this, the software will run reconciliation in the backend. So when after the reconciliation is done, there would be 4 results. There would be some invoices which are present only in books, like your B2C or your exempted invoices. So these will only be present in books. Then there might be some invoices which are present only in the portal. So Venu sir had given an example. So you have generated an e-invoice, but later you discovered there was a mistake and you were not able to cancel it within the 24-hour window. So you canceled it from your books, but it is still there in your GSTR1. So you can change the settings here. So invoice present only in books, you would obviously want it to upload to portal. Invoice present only in auto-populated data. So here you can choose whether you want to keep the data in the portal as it is, or do you want to mark it for deletion. So I am marking it for deletion. Books and e-invoice exact match. It says that the invoice is matching and all the details therein are also matching for the invoice. So I will do a keep portal invoice as it is, as I do not want to disturb that data. If I change any detail of that invoice, the IRN will get delinked for that invoice. Now there might be a case that you have later amended something in the invoice, but while generating the e-invoice, a different value was given. So at a high level, the invoice has matched, but there are some details which are different. So here you can choose whether you want to upload the books invoice, replace it with the books invoice, or if you want to keep the portal invoice as it is. In this case, I'm choosing upload books invoice to portal. So after these settings are done, I will click on calculate summary. So based on my settings, I have calculated the summary. This summary shows the total GSTR1 that would display on the portal once I have completed my upload. If you want to check what invoices are getting uploaded to the portal, that is the delta, only the additional invoices you want to check what is getting uploaded or deleted, you can check using this payload XLS. So here I'll show you B2B. So these invoices are extra and I'm uploading to the portal. Similarly, any credit notes, debit notes, or your B2C. So going back, I upload these invoices. So this will take a minute or two to download. In the meanwhile, let me also show you the where you can get the reconciliation report. So if you want to check the report before you do an upload, you can also go to reconciliation report, sales register versus GSTR1. So I'm filing for July. I download the July data here. Complete data is downloaded. I've already uploaded the purchase register. Then I would run the matcher here. And download the July report. So if you want to identify the specific invoices which which is causing a difference in your return, you would be able to see them here. So only in books, and the entries which are there in the portal matched, it would show in green as matched, and blue would be there for only in portal entries. Now the upload has completed and there are some errors. Let's see what the errors are. So this is a very frequent error that comes up. So you have generated a B2B invoice, but upon uploading those invoices, you get an error that the GST number of the recipient is inactive. In that case, you will have to convert that B2B invoice into B2C and re-upload your return. So GSTZen provides you an option for this automatic conversion. So you won't have to go back, correct it and re-upload. So if I just auto correct it from here, it will convert that B2B invoice into B2C. Now what I'd have to do is recalculate the summary so that this invoice moves from B2B into B2Z. As you can see earlier, the number of B2B invoices was 63. Now it has gone down to 62. I re-upload the data. It will take another 1 or 2 minutes. So you can also find other kinds of errors here. So for some errors where the solution is clear, like GST number is inactive or cancelled, suspended, there you can convert from B2B into B2C. This autocorrect feature helps out a lot. Plus, you can also see here that the HSN summary got automatically calculated based on the sales data I uploaded. My return has now successfully uploaded to the portal. It will take hardly a minute or two for the return to upload. Next, I'll do is upload the same data, download the summary from the portal of the data which is there now for GSTR1. So I've only uploaded the delta here, that is the additional information. So I need to make sure that whatever is finally reflecting in my return is matching with my sales register. So here you can see the details are matching, and in comparison, the difference is 0. So This will help you to ensure that whatever is there in your books, you are exactly filing that for your GSTR1 and there are no discrepancies. At the time, if you get a notice also, that time you would have these summaries to go back to and ensure that you file the correct data. Next step, the last step would be to file your return. You can either file using EVC or with DSC. So we have completed the return filing process under 10 minutes. Otherwise, it would have taken you more than half an hour just to go over the data which is already there in the portal, then compare it with your books, upload the additional data. After that, if you get any errors, you rectify the error and then re-upload. So at least half an hour we have saved here. Now moving on, I'll show you how GSTZen enables you to file GSTR 3B. So I go to this return. Again, login, already logged in with OTP. So here I have the option of downloading the auto-populated data. So as my colleague had already mentioned, so GST portal auto generates your GSTR 3B, and if your values are differing from auto calculated data, if what you're filing is different to what the government has auto populated, it will raise a flag. So here we also provide this auto calculated data so that you have a basis for filing GSTR 3B. And if you want, you can change these figures. These figures are coming directly from the GST portal. So I am saving these workings. I can also change the data if I require. If any of my details are not according to my books and I want to slightly change the data, like whatever is I'm reversing, which is not eligible for ITC, I'm reversing, or I'm reclaiming the data which I had earlier reversed. That was temporary reversal. Now I'm reclaiming it. So that also I can provide here and then save my workings.
Bharti, can you just go up, scroll up to the top?
Just a moment.
Fully to the top. Yeah. So, okay, just sorry, click on the go back button, please. On the screen, go back here. So here, if you can see on the top, save your workings, you can also attach your working files. At times, onto the top, just be on the completely on the top. Yeah. At times, you might also have the data coming from 3-4 different places, different units, or you have a computation for Rule 42 separately, or some advances, some workings you have an Excel file. You can also upload an Excel file here. I would always recommend people filing the GSTR 3B through GSTZen. You may say, hey, look, I have to only put punch one entry. Why don't I go to the portal? That is easy. I'll do it. Definitely, I would say that it is easy. But when you do here, it is more methodological and procedural. It will say this is the auto-populated data. If you have changed, you see the computed by GSTZen and you are doing a separate data entry, you can also fill that why you are making the changes and you can capture this additional information. That is always I say that use the software. It helps you to track. Like in the month of April, for some reason, someone has entered a value in the portal, some number. Now I don't know why he has entered what he has entered, but at least now you can say that here is how these are my workings, and that's where GSTZen would also help you to track all the changes. Sorry to interrupt. Please proceed.
Right. Okay, so I have saved my workings here. Next step would be to upload this information to the portal. So as soon as I upload the information, the electronic ledger balances are also downloaded simultaneously, and the software runs an algorithm in the backend so that you have the optimum ITC utilization and you pay the least amount of tax based on the computation. It will enable you to save your working capital so that you don't have to pay the amount in cash unnecessarily. This will help you in avoiding that situation. And the last step would be to offset. You can offset the liability, and then you can file either using EVC or DSC. So this was the procedure to file GSTR 1 and 3B. So we have completed the whole process within 15 minutes. So it takes very less time when you're utilizing GSTZen to file your returns. So as we have been discussing the notices, we have also integrated viewing of notices in GSTZen. So here you can keep track of your notices as well. So I'm downloading. Here the option is there. I will just log into the GST portal. And by using sync, I'll check if I have any new notices. Here, the last sync time would also be given. So the last sync was done on 29th March. Once that sync is done, I have a summary of the notice here. I can download the PDF. That option to download the PDF is available here. And I can also save my working to keep track of all the notices in the portal itself. The status, replied, submitted online, unread. So here, if I click on the notice, I can save the reply which I have provided to the government and change the status as well. So reply, submitted online, or if you have submitted offline, once that is resolved, you can also mark it as resolved. And now if I go back to notice tracker, it will say that this is resolved. So this will also give you an overview of all your notices at one glance, which are unread, for which you have already submitted the reply, whether it was online or offline, whether it remains unread or acknowledged. All these statuses you can put against each notice here. So this will, GSTZen will help you in managing your notices very efficiently. And if you require any help in replying or responding to your notices, you can contact our team of experts through email or through WhatsApp. So besides filing, we also have reconciliation. I showed you the reconciliation in brief for sales register with GSTR1. Similarly, by filing 3B, reconciliation of 2B is very essential. So you can also do that for purchase register and GSTR2B in the software. Now, all these functions I've shown you at GST number level. So repeating these functions for each GST number again and again becomes quite tedious. We have also provided you an option to perform this function for multiple GST numbers at a time with a tool called autopilot. So if I want to download my GSTR2A for, let's say, 20 GST numbers, so I click on download data from the government portal with OTP or username password, and I select the return, the particular financial year, select the GST numbers and start. So in the single window itself, you would be able to download and see the progress of all your downloads here. Let's say if you want to check what you're filing for your GSTR1. So file return GSTR1 with OTP. If I want to check the summary before upload for July, I select all the GST numbers here and I can track all the GST numbers and their summaries, what would ultimately reflect on the portal. Even after upload, if you want to check what is there in the portal before you do a final submit, you want to review, make sure since the probability of notices has increased, the government is more vigilant. You should make sure you should check what you are filing. So just before filing, you can also check the comparison between GSTZen and the portal summary for all the GST numbers at a glance. Plus, you can also check the status, filing status for your returns. So if you want to check the filing status return, let's say I want to check for GSTR1, whether for all GST numbers has it been filed. I'm checking on 11th at the last moment to make sure that the returns have been filed. So I can check here and be ensured that yes, all the returns have been filed. My suppliers, my customers would not have any issues while claiming ITC. So here you can see for two GST numbers, there is an error. That means the return has not been filed. So GSTZen provides you various avenues to make sure that you are GST compliant. So that is all for the demo. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bharti. That's a wonderful demo, I would say. Especially users, regular users who have been filing with GSTZen could be like a recap, and those who are using the traditional methods of filing the returns using Excel, I would still suggest that you should switch to using a software which will ease you in terms of filing of your returns. Now we have come to end of the session. At this point, I would allow users, you can unmute yourself and ask the question if any, so that I'm here and our team is also here who can take up the questions. In fact, most of the questions that have come up on the chat have been answered. But if there is any question that is unanswered, you can raise a question here.
Yeah, hi Venugopal sir. This
Yes,
is
sir.
Nageshwar.
Yes, sir.
Actually, while filing GSTR1, that Bharti madam told that we need to upload sales register from Excel, correct?
Yeah, there are multiple options. If you have data in Excel format, you can upload. If you're using Tally as a software, there is a connector. The data from Tally will automatically pull.
Okay, here one more doubt I have.
Yes.
If since ours is a works contract company, if
Yeah.
we receive any advances,
Yes.
how the GST system, GSTZen system recognize the outward liability?
Yeah. So this is where I was saying that you should use that upload the attachment in the Excel, because this is not there in the sales register. Hence, the GSTZen system cannot also recognize. You have to manually enter this filing the GST, the taxes on the advances. That's a manual data entry.
Okay,
Whenever this is Saktivaran,
Yes, sir.
is it mandated to update the GST advances? The advance is not the liability right now.
With regards to the goods, no, we have notification 66 central tax giving exemption, but with regards to service, it is mandatory.
So because sometimes we are doing both AMC as a spare sales and material goods. In that case,
for the AMC, you have an obligation to pay, sir.
No, the amount is not returning to AMC, to the total amount of that order. In the order, maybe spares as well as AMC.
Okay, so predominant supply section 8 will take over and say if it is a composite supply, and predominantly if it is goods, hence not required. Predominantly if it is service, it would be required.
Okay. Yeah, another I have a question. In the GST 2B and GST 3B, normally our credit 3B credit is more than 2B. So in that case, I have to take professionally, or I can take what are the credit in my books, that is which is matched with my GSTR 2B and 3B. It is in the multiple months.
I'll give you the multiple scenarios. In 3B, which is also in books, I have some line items. In 2B, I have some line items. There will only be 3 scenarios appearing in both, which is matched or likely matched, partially matched. Only in books, only in 2B. Only in books, you cannot take credit of it. You have to defer it till it appears. only in 2B, not in books. You have to avail, which is report in 4A5 and reverse it in your 4B2, which is a temporary reversal.
Is it mandatory that because some 1 or 2 invoices you tell it is very easy. But for our company, the 2B credit which is not available is more. Number of
Mandatory.
invoices more.
Mandatory. That's
For example, as per July, I have 2B credits 5 lakhs.
yeah.
Out of 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs is matching. But I have taken 6 lakhs because 3 lakhs is the previous month credits. So I've taken 6 lakhs. So all 6 are matched with the 2B. Whether I have to declare the 2 lakhs of July credits, I have not taken because I have not received a service or goods. So I have not taken. So whether it should be reported in the 4A, is it mandatory?
Yes, sir. That is what I'm saying. In fact, that is where Ashika was saying that you will be getting a notice in DRC01B whenever you are availing credit more than what is there in 2B. Now, here is a case where in your previous month purchase was there, which you have not reported. So the expectation of the portal is you report the credit, which is 4A5, reverse this credit, which you say that you want to avail in a later period in 4B2. The subsequent periods, whenever you have received the goods, again report that in your 4A5 and report it in 4D1. You may ask, isn't it stupid I do all this work? But that is what the expectation of the law is. That's what the Form 3B says. That's how you have to do. You have to always take the credits which are there in 2B and report it.
Then I understood what is problem here now. So sometimes the vendor gets uploaded wrong GST numbers. So then you find out you supplied the service to Andhra Pradesh, but you raised invoice in Tamil Nadu, then I have changed. But I declared in Tamil Nadu, but subsequently they have changed the invoice to Andhra. So if I taken in reverse, so what is the impact?
I taken in reverse, no impact. Not taking, you will have to do the reconciliation and give an explanation to the officer in DRC01B.
So we have a backup for that. What is the credit available, whether it is available in the GST or 2B?
No problem.
Which month?
All that I'm saying is you will be inviting a notice, you have to explain to it. That's all I'm saying. At any given point of time, you cannot take a credit which is not there in 2B.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? In fact, Utkarsh has shared our WhatsApp community group. We have a regular updates on GST, which we share over the WhatsApp, whatever the notification circulars or our analysis of the circulars is being shared regularly to the group. Please do subscribe to the WhatsApp community group and feel free to write to us if you have any query which is not resolved. Our WhatsApp number and the chat support number and the email ID is also shared, which is support@GSTZen.in. And in case if you are using the GSTZen software and somewhere you find that you are not using this feature, you can still go ahead and request for one more demo. We'll do a one-on-one demo of the latest features that we have been implementing.
Hello, Gopinath sir.
Yes, Gopinath sir, tell me.
Yeah, one more thing. Is it while using this GSTZen software, is there any previous months related invoices? See, as of now, everybody is not filing properly within the stipulated time.
Correct.
Okay. If it is, see, now I am filing July month GSTR 3B. In the July month GSTR 2A, the invoice of April month reflected. How can we resolve this issue in that GSTZen software?
Exactly. So when you use GSTZen software, see here, I'm assuming we are talking about purchases here. So is it purchase related query or sales related, sir?
Purchase.
Yeah.
That is.
So when you are doing a reconciliation, you are uploading the books register.
Yes.
And the data from the portal is automatically downloaded.
Okay.
In the month of April, it would say that this is only in books, not in the portal.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you also have a feature where you can send an email directly from GSTZen, a reminder email to the supplier.
Okay.
Now in July, when supplier has uploaded, since the record is already there in the Zen,
April.
it will automatically reconcile and say match now. Though it
Okay.
is the April invoice, but it has been matched now. So it would be showing, and it will tell. It will also tell you.
What happened?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Gopinath sir. We are able to hear you. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I think Venu sir is having some internet issue. He'll be joining back shortly.
Yeah. Hi, Gopinath sir. We are able to hear.
Ek minute, sir. Yeah, could you able to see hear my voice, sir?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Venu sir would be joining in just a moment.
Yeah. Can I ask you a few questions? Hello.
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 Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is regarding the ITC eligible. Say example, my ITC is 100 rupees. Then my ineligible is 10 rupees. Okay. In that case, under table 4A5, suppose I am showing 110 rupees, and under 4B 1 under section 17 subsection 5, I'm showing 10 rupees. Is it okay to file the return 3B?
Sir, your 2B is showing 110 or how much? I couldn't hear you properly starting what you heard.
Yeah, madam, this is 2B, which is showing 110. Okay. My
Okay.
3B, as per my records, eligible is 100 rupees and ineligible is 10 rupees. So here, when
Ineligible, you say it is with respect to 17.5?
Eligible, yeah, correct. Without blocked credit, 100 rupees. 10 rupees is the blocked credit.
Okay.
In 4A5, all other ITC I'm showing here 110 rupees, and 4B2 1 I'm showing 10 rupees. It means it is neutralized, and finally net eligible, net ITC available is 100 rupees. This is okay, or
Yeah, it is good to go, sir.
yeah. So 110 I'm showing total ITC. 10 rupees I'm showing under 4B1.
Under 4B1.
And net ITC available 100 rupees. This presentation is okay, no, madam?
Yeah, that is good to go, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Venu sir would not be able to join again. If there are any other questions, please ask them now. Akila ma'am and I would be answering your questions.
Hello, I have another question.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
This is a general question. Actually, suppose the notice is served in portal, whereas this I unable to see in portal. Suppose I forgot to see in portal. So will it be getting parallelly through email, madam?
Yes, sir. Ashika ma'am had explained that you would be getting an email
Yeah,
notification as well.
yeah. So how I can see that email ID is registered in GST portal. Is there any
You can go to your profile and
profile?
yes, in your profile, I think just to make sure, Akila ma'am, can you please answer this question? I think it's
In
signature,
profile section, yeah. In
authorized
profile
signature.
section, authorized signature, you can find the mobile number and email ID registered. Any communication from the department will be sent to that email ID and mobile number.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Nageshwar. One more question from me. Actually, whenever we have received a purchase invoice, okay, purchase or a contracts invoice, by slab or by milestone, we will pay. See, suppose if we received a purchase invoice for 50 lakh rupees, but we paid only against that invoice 30 lakh. Based on that 30 lakh, this many of the subcontractors nowadays will file only the 30 lakh worth of sales invoice. To outcome from this, how can we manage, ma'am? You got my point? Hello?
That would be under your
Yes, sir.
advance received, right? So once they
No,
have
no, no,
issued,
no, no. No, what I want to tell you is, see, some of the subcontractor raised against us the bill of 50 lakh rupees. Okay. We didn't pay that 50 lakh within 1 month or 1.5 month. See, there are certain terms and conditions, right? Payment terms and conditions. Based on this, we made 30 lakh rupees. Out of 50 lakh invoice, we have made 30 lakh payment. But sometimes there are many contractors that those contractors, they will agree it for payment terms and conditions, but they won't file the return. They will file only that 30 lakh rupees of invoice, amending this 50 lakh rupees invoice. In this case, how can we outcome from this issue? You got my point, no, madam, or not?
Sir, you will be eligible for the credit which you have received in 2B. Like if the contractor has
Yeah, ma'am, that's the
paid
thing
money
only.
for 30,000,
Yeah, that's the thing
he
only.
has to amend the invoice and give you.
Yeah, but at the same time, we are trying to make some debit note behalf of them. For that also, they are not giving ready to give, because whatever they got the money. See, by officially the payment terms 60 days, ma'am, in our company. Okay, everybody knows within that 60 days we can't able to pay full of the invoice. It may go 75 days or 80 days. In that scenario, they are blocking their money, right, contractors. So they are reducing the invoice amount. They are amending. Suppose they have given 123 invoice number, they are making the amendment as a 123A, and they are making 30 lakh rupees, and they are amending the invoice in GSTR1 and filing.
Means
So,
they are showing 123 invoice as 123A
yeah,
with
correct.
value of 30,000.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
After full complete payment, what they are doing? Sir?
After complete payment, they are giving some debit note and all. In this scenario, we are facing some issues because the GSTR2A is not matching with our books. The invoice number is same as per GSTR2A with books, but the amount is differing.
Sir, can you write us the query so that it can be resolved?
Yeah,
immediately?
yeah. Okay. No problem. Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
sir.
This question to Gobinath and Bharati. Say, I frequently facing that endpoint error. Can you fix that error permanently?
Yes, sir. I will. We are trying it. We are trying to make a permanent solution of it.
Because every time I log in, I am facing a endpoint error. Then only and come out. Then only that I am able to log in. So please fix that error.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? If there are no more questions, we'll conclude the session here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.